Hey guys, God bless. So forbidden fruit, I think's done. That was quite an amazing journey, to be honest with you. But anyway, I felt pressed to. I did a couple videos on the mark of the beast. I think they're kind of um, a little advanced. Just the information came to me at that time, and that's what I recorded. I felt the Lord tell me to do one kind of from scratch, like what is it? Um, how will it be offered? Uh, who's in control of it? Um, and not necessarily kind of like I guess I put the meat first before people understand possibly what it is. So here it is. It I would say you watch this one first, and then which I'll talk about here, and then sinning in the temple of God. I believe is the next probably logical thing to watch after this. So, um, so let's begin. It's going to be a long video, very long. I apologize in advance, but like the Lord told me, don't worry about it. It's probably going to be here for other people, not necessarily those right now who are awake. I think everyone kind of knows what the mark is or has a good understanding of it. So, sit back, relax, enjoy the video. I pray, Lord, that your words will come forth, your truth will be known, and that I can speak for you here humbly. And all right, so let's begin. So, without doing anything in depth in the Bible, everybody knows. I think anybody on the street, most everybody on the street has heard about the mark of the beast. It's probably one of the most famous verses in Revelation, 666, the whole 9 yards. Everyone has this idea of it in the back of their mind that some sort of mark is going to come out eventually. And if you know anything about Revelation at all, you know it's about tribulation, and it's going to be about buying and selling. It talks about the beast that will require people to get this mark to buy and sell. And another word for buying and selling is consume. We are consumers of this planet. We consume. Okay, that's we're humans. That's what we do. Um, Not necessarily our intended purpose is to consume. That's not our intended purpose. I believe our intended purpose was to keep this garden, hedge it, and worship God. And that's what we haven't done. Instead, we become these little consumers running around on the planet. Um, so this same revelation, same text, we see that it'll damn you to the lake of fire. All right, and you will be tormented in the presence of holy angels and Jesus Christ, the Lamb. So let's take a look at a couple verses. He causeth all. He's going to make all, big, small, great, rich and poor, free and bond. Now, children, I don't know how all this works. Okay, so I have no idea. God knows who's innocent, and He knows who are His. So I have no idea about children. So we'll start off with that right away. To receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. No man that buy or sell, unless he's got the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And then, of course, here's wisdom in the number of man 666. And a third angel followed them, 14:8, Revelation. If any man worship the beast in his image and receive the mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink the wine of the wrath of God. All right, and that's going to be the bowl of judgments, I believe. When everyone else is gone, they are going to be here, taking on this wrath of God, which is poured out, mixture into the cup of his indignation. Keep that word in the back of your mind, indignation. Okay. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb, which is Jesus Christ. They will have no rest day or night, and their torment will ascendeth up forever. No rest day or night. Okay? Keep that in the back of your mind, too. Why is this such a sensitive issue? Okay, why is this such a profound choice? Why would He put us in a situation where we cannot buy or sell without a mark, and then damning us when we do take this mark to buy and sell? All right. The mark is not going to come. the mark is not going to come here at the most convenient of times, or it's going to come at the most inconvenient, essentially. We are going to have to require this to eat, to buy gas, to lodging, to pay people for services. We will need it to survive, right? No, that's not right. You need the Lord and the Lord only, wholly and completely. This mark, all right, is going to come at a time when cataclysmic events will hit the earth, and it's going to, quote unquote, force people to either take it or not. And you need to be educated on what it is and what it's going to do if you take it. Okay. All right. Of all the verses in the Bible, most people know about not taking the mark of the beast. This is not by accident. This has been ingrained in you. You grew up in church as a little kid, and the mark of the beast, the preacher might have mentioned it, and it seems so weird and mystical, and what is this mark and all these things, and how is this going to affect me? Every person, I think, knows about this mark, really do. It's been ingrained in you. Just as it's been ingrained in you to live off the world. Okay, what are we talking about? In other words, most people do not rely on Jesus Christ for their needs. We don't, every day, most people don't wake up and pray and say, Lord, your will be done in my life today, whatever it is. Most people don't do that. Most people go to the fridge, they open it up, they expect food. You go to your car, you expect gas. If you don't have gas, you go get gas, you run your credit card, you get gas. You don't have food, you go to the grocery store, you buy your food. There's no thanking of God for most people. Some people do. There's no thanking of God for these things. There's no praise to God for these things. We simply, it's taking it for granted that the necessities of life will be there. Okay, and that goes back: are these necessities or are these luxuries? Okay, what about okay, not only that. Okay, let's talk about this. So not only that, but when we are wronged, if something happens to us, we don't ask God for guidance. Like, hey, this guy stole from me, God. What should I do? Should I go and confront him and say, you know what? I know you stole this from me. I have it on video, whatever, but I forgive you. And if you need it, you can have it. Or is it, we go to the government for everything. I'm a cop, and I tell you what, I cannot believe some of the stuff they call 911 for. It is the most ridiculous thing in the world. It's the most ridiculous system. And you hear it coming in all the time. One guy wanted to help us look for a lost dog. I mean, not that I, anything against that guy, but I mean, we are, if you look at it plainly, we are state law enforcement. We enforce state law. So, okay, anyway, I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but they have set it up so that we are constantly going to them for help, constantly going to the world for help. 911, Revelation 911. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Our government in its totality is not here to help us. It is not here for us. They could care less about who you are. They want you to work so that you can pay your taxes and give them money, essentially. Okay, if you have a child and he says he's gay, who do we turn into? Oprah, Dr. Phil. Hey, what's going on with all this stuff and all these things? What's your opinion? We don't go to Christ anymore. No one goes to Jesus Christ for anything anymore. And it's really sad. It's really, you put your faith in other people, the world, the government, and instead of, number one, thanking him for what you have, and number two, praying for things to continue that way. Like, hey, Lord, we thank you for the food. We know we have food constantly, and we want to give you thanks. I never see people pray anymore when they go out to eat. I never see it. You don't see it at all. If you knew what was in your food, you would beg God to cleanse it. Trust me. All right. Do you think he's a non-existent God? Do you think he's just not there? Do you think he's just watching you fall, falter, do whatever you want? But we've stopped consulting him. If you really believe, then where's the faith? If you really believe Jesus Christ is real, then why aren't you reading the Bible? If you really to find out everything you can about him, it's the first thing I did. I was like, I can't believe I've wasted my life. Who are you? What is in store for us? Good and bad. He's not an absentee God. But he's waiting for you to call upon him. It would only appear that we only want or need God when our worldly desires need to be fulfilled. I immediately thought of this. How would you feel if you had a child that only come around, that only would come and see you, give you a hug? Hey, mom. Hey, dad. I really love you. Can you buy me a pony? Can you get me a car for graduation? Can you help me pay for this boat? Would you feel like a parent to them? Would you feel like a leader to them, which is what a parent should be? Would you feel like a absentee parent? Hey, you only come around when you want something. What's going on? I'm sure it's as disheartening for God as it would be for you if that was you as a father or mother. This relationship, God wants to be involved in everything you do. He doesn't want to be on speed dial for help or a new job or a nice home or a promotion. You should praise him in good and in bad. Yes, it's hard to do, trust me, but everything he does builds you, okay? Revelation 9:11. This is not by accident. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. Satan runs our government. Satan runs every aspect of it. If you don't believe me, you don't believe Satan runs the kingdoms of the world, then you need to read the Bible, because Satan offered the kingdoms of the world to Jesus Christ. But Jesus didn't take them because, number one, he's obedient to his Father, and two, it wasn't the Father's plan. And it wasn't his time yet. Satan's got this allotted time to do what he needs to do under the thumb of God. Who are we calling on when we need help? If we really had faith in God, if we heard a burglar outside our home, I would think we'd pray first, right? Instead of getting the phone and calling 911. Do you think Satan gets any worship out of that? He's calling on me before he's calling on you. You might say, oh, that's kind of silly. Well, maybe. Maybe not. I told my wife, I was like, that's the faith that we should have. If there's a burglar outside our home and he's wanting to get in the house, instead of picking up the phone and calling 911 or grabbing a gun, all right, which I have guns, or grabbing a gun, we should immediately pray. Lord, I don't know what's going on. Something's going on. I need your help right now. I call upon the name of Jesus right now to help me. And go from there, right? If we had the faith. If we had the faith. That's what we should do. Yeah, they say that's how they look at us. That's how the government looks at us. We are idiots for not knowing any better. And it's all written, folks. Okay, let's continue. Now, at the beginning, I said, without doing an in-depth study, well, we're going to make this an in-depth study because I do not, for any circumstance, want you to take the mark of the beast. And I want you to be completely informed of what it is and what it's going to do to you, okay? It's much deeper than just simply buying and selling goods, okay? I pray that you have watched the series of Forbidden Fruit, because you're going to be a little lost if you don't. I try to put a lot of stuff in here. I knew this was going to be a long video, so I kept it as cut as I could, all right? But you should probably watch this series first if you haven't. Show yourself approved. Study. Read the Word of God. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good, acceptable, and the perfect will of God. Do not be conformed of this world. Take yourself out of the world. It's funny, and I'll tell you something real quick. Before I was saved, I was a big spender. I loved to spend money. I loved to buy things. I had GPS for my bicycle. I had 3 bicycles, and they're not cheap. I have, guns. I bought watches. I was completely engulfed with materialistic things. And it's funny, as soon as I was saved, as soon as I was changed, those things became non existent. God completely took them out of my life. And He can do that. He can take that dependency from you if you allow it. If you allow it. And I was never satisfied. I was never happy. I would always go, well, that GPS is newer and it's got a color map instead of black and white, and I was never completely satisfied with what I had. But when you come to Christ and He shows you these things spiritually, then you understand I was a slave to this world. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. For any man that loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Those are His words, not mine. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not the Father, but is of the world. The world will pass away, and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of God abideth forever. I have a brand new truck, 2012. I bought a truck, Ford truck. And I bought it because I had to pull a trailer. My wife and I, we'd go camping and go mountain biking. And, I bought the truck around the time I was saved. I had been looking for 2 years because I needed a new truck. But anyway, the truck got a dent in it, backed it into a tree. And you know what? It didn't function. It didn't hurt any of the functionality of the truck. I never got it fixed. I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm not getting it fixed. It was $1,000 to get the bumper fixed. And, I just couldn't put myself in that position to buy a new bumper just because of how it looked. And I think that's the mindset He's looking for. And I'm not saying I'm anything, but I think that kind of shows how I was taken out of the world. There's always something better. You can always improve. You buy a new car, it's brand new, it's got plastic in it. 2 weeks later, it's dirty. 2 weeks later, you got a scratch on it. 2 weeks later, it's got a headlight broken. Or it gets keyed at the mall. Whatever. That's the problem. Is we're putting too much into this world and not enough into Him. Come out of the world. We live in a prison. Call it what you want. It is a prison. Yes, at times we love the prison. It doesn't feel like prison when you're out on the lake or in your hunting stand or at a ball game. But it's most definitely a controlled, manipulated, deceptive prison. That control of the prison has now become drastically tighter, as you can tell, with security being compromised in the world and terrorism being compromised in the world. Everything's getting tighter. Your rights are getting tighter. They're watching you closer. Yeah, you might be able to say, well, I don't do nothing wrong, so they can watch. Well, do you really want them watching you? Honestly? I mean, it's all by design anyway. It's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. Its grip will never loosen. It will get worse until Jesus comes back and sets His throne. Okay, let's take this back to the Bible, what I'm talking about. When Israel was enslaved for 400 years, they were beaten. They were put to work for the betterment of Egypt only. They got nothing out of it. They worked every day, slave-driven, being whipped, being beaten. All right, for the betterment of Egypt, building whatever it was they were building. Some say pyramids, I don't know, but whatever they were building. They had appointed taskmasters over them who drove them as slaves to exhaustion. All for the benefit of Egypt, not God's people, for Egypt. Egypt is symbolic of the world, okay? When the Lord finally freed them from the prison, okay, they took them through the Red Sea and He birthed a nation. He birthed a people. They murmured, they were angry. Why? Why would they be angry if they were just set free? Because even though they were enslaved in Egypt, Egypt still provided for them all their wants and all their needs. They had fresh fruits, shelter, yet they were enslaved. But they were cared for, as a master would care for a slave. The Israelites were totally dependent on the world. Egypt, just as we are totally dependent on our system. We're the exact same way. Slightly different level, but the exact same way. We get up, we go to work 8 hours a day, we come home, we spend a couple hours with the family, we go to bed, and that's a far reach right there, right? Nowadays, is that a far reach? We go to bed, we do it all over again. The weekend comes, we do whatever it is we're going to do on the weekend. We might take a day to go down the lake, we might take a day to go hiking, we might take a day to do this or that, and then we got to paint, we got to fix the fence, we got to mow the yard, because everything is made to not be permanent here. It's made to fall apart. Okay. Then we do it all over the next week. We never get ahead. We're always in debt. Our credit cards keep us just in the right amount of debt. You know, we never quite have just enough to put some in savings or to put some in, funds, stock funds, whatever. A lot of our money goes to building our Egypt or government. And what are they doing with it? Not much has really improved, has it? Our army's the weakest it's ever been. Our roads are junk. All right. I don't see homeless coming off the streets and going into homes. I don't see food pantries set up, like we could set them up. All right. Everything's going back to the government. Everything's going back to them. We're feeding the beast. Exactly. We're stuck in a vicious work system of work, work, work. Maybe you have enough to retire. Maybe you work a little extra job on the side. And then you enjoy those little golden years, maybe. What can you really enjoy at 70 years old? I mean, really, what can you enjoy at 70? And then we face death. We put more stock into our lives here than anything else, and nothing ever lasts. It always falls apart because it's not an eternal state. Everything in heaven's in an eternal state. Your home will be an eternal state. You will be an eternal state. This is exactly like the Israelites in Egypt. And when you are pulled out of the world and put into the wilderness to wander, to learn, to grow, you see the Lord put them in the wilderness so that they would solely rely on Him. Okay? Solely rely on Him and not the world. And that's sometimes hard. That's very hard. I mean, that's like you're pulled out of your comfort zone. And now you got to rely on a God who you may or may have not been praying to or to care for you. Are you going to put your faith in Him? They had to depend on Him for everything. Okay, how does this tie into the mark? Where did we go? Okay. The mark is going to try to keep you in the world system. It's going to keep you dependent on the world system for your every need. Okay? It's going to keep you in the world. Even though there'll be destruction and everything around, nothing will matter. The mark will want to put you back into the world. And if you're in the world, well, then you're not with God. You got to be in one or the other. We just read that verse, didn't we? Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. You got to give up on these things. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, pride of life. Okay. You must now depend on Him and His provision. And I promise you, it will not be luxurious, glorious, or glamorous. Okay? Those things will come in heaven, not here. Think of Satan owning this world, and remember I told you, he offered everything to Jesus. Okay, he offered everything, all the kingdoms of the world to Jesus. I'm sure he took him out of time and space and said, look, you can have everything from now until the end. Just worship me. Just worship me, Jesus. Just worship me. He's made the world some of these things for some people to keep them in it. God is not of these things. Not here. Not on this planet. Not for who it serves. No way. You'll get those things in heaven. Here, you'll live a life being humble, meek, and he will provide the necessities for you and nothing more. Nothing here is great anyway. The food is practically poison anyway. It is now, right? Medications are worthless. They do more damage than good. I read an article, what was it the other day, about chemotherapy. It's got like a 3% effective rate, which is, I mean, it's ridiculous. Nothing here is good anyway, or good for you. Bless your food. Give God authority over it. Give God authority over you. Okay. And the children of Israel wept again, and they said, who shall give us flesh to eat? Remember the fish that we ate in Egypt freely, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. Remember all those nice things we had? But now our soul is dried away, and there's nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes. It was bread that God was giving them, nourished bread. But they're upset. They're mad. Bitterness. And children of Israel said to him, let me see here, hold on. I'm doing this sorry about that, I had to look at it for a second. So basically what they're saying is God took us out of Egypt so he can kill us out here. Because they're mad. All right, kill this whole assembly with hunger. He's going to kill us all. But the Lord said to Moses, I will rain bread from heaven for you. Okay? And the people will go out and gather at a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they want to walk in my law or no. This is testing. Do you really love me? Do you really want to be a part of me? Are you going to put away the world? Are you going to get rid of it and let me care for you? Prove them. Very big word right there. Prove them. I may prove them. Can you come out of the world or not? If you can't, I don't want you. The love of me is not in you. That's what the verse says. He's going to test them. Remember what God does with the iron. Or not with the iron, but with his offspring, with Satan's offspring. He uses them for testing. He uses them to test us, to see what we're going to do. Will we have faith? Will we walk with him? I'll get into that a little bit later. He cared for him. This is what happened. I've led you for 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes are not waxing upon you. In other words, they didn't rot. Your shoes not waxing old. In other words, everything was fine. Your shoes were fine. Your clothes are fine. And it never went old. Okay. Clues from the beginning. According to the book of Jasher, Cain killed Abel with an iron plow blade. It all begins right there. The Lord banishes Cain from his family and sets a mark upon him. Does that sound familiar? Sets a mark upon him and then separates him, right? Banished from those who love you and sent away, marked, feeling God's wrath or punishment. The Lord marks his people. He's done this from the beginning. He does it in the end. Always remember, if you want to know what Satan is going to do, look at what God is doing, because Satan will mimic it. I will be like the Most High. That's what he says, 14:14. Do not hurt the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees. This is an angel saying this, or God saying this to the angel. Do not hurt the sea, or the earth, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of God in their foreheads. You are sealed. As a believer in God, you are sealed. Ezekiel, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark on the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry at all the abominations that are done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said, go after him through the city and smite. Let your not eyes spare, neither have pity. You got to understand you need to go probably to Ezekiel 9 and read this, because essentially God's having them kill everything. Slay the old, slay the young, the maids and the children and the women, but come not near who is marked. All right. Basically, this is a picture of judgment. Israel had turned totally against God, and Jerusalem is totally against God at this point. And God said, there's a remnant, all right, that's there. Mark them and save them and spare them. But those that aren't marked, kill them. Okay, iron. I want you to just think about this picture for a minute. I have to scroll away, but Israel was controlled by Rome because Rome had iron. Israel did not have weapons, or if they did, soldiers took them away and put their thumb underneath whoever tried to manufacture any weapons. Iron was the control piece for Israel. Okay? God uses the iron to test his people. Keep that in mind. He uses the iron to test his people. Okay, so you got this battle array here, all the Roman soldiers with iron and clay. Okay, we'll get to it in a little bit. We'll get to it right now. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partially strong and partially broken. And whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with the miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave to one another, even as iron does not mix with clay. Mingle. Mingle means to control in a skillful manner. Miry clay, the Bible makes it very clear that we are clay. Seed of men, future seed, future DNA of men. Who are they? Who are they? That's what we'll get into. We're going to look extensively at iron. I want you to think about the Romans that we just talked about during the time Jesus was crucified. Roman ruled because of the power they had in iron. Iron weaponry gave them power over the Israelites. If you watch the miniseries of Acts, great miniseries, you'll notice that Israel had no weapons, no way of producing weapons. They were helpless against the Roman oppressors. The iron was a complete edge in every way over the Israelites. But you remember, the Romans were somewhat friendly. All right, I won't say friendly, but they tried to play themselves off as friendly. They tried to play themselves off as, hey, we're kind of like your big brother. We're going to punch you in the nose when you're messing up, but at the same time, you kind of can rely on us, for your needs and your help. Keep that in mind when we talk about the NWO in the New Rome. Okay, that's going to be coming. This harsh rule using iron will be and has been repeated several times in history. In fact, Daniel wrote the above verse. I'm sure he thought about Rome when it arrived on the scene. I'm not sure if he was alive or the time frame there, but when Rome arrived, I'm sure at least the scholars were like, this is the iron and this is the clay he was talking about. Many believe his prophecy was being fulfilled, but look carefully. It states, they will mingle with the seed of men. Okay, the seed of men meaning future DNA of men. Guns also serve this same control factor. Iron has always made the oppressor a master over who he oppresses. The New Rome, or NWO, will have the same characteristics as Old Rome, but there'll be some twists to the operation. So just like we just talked about, we're your big brother. We're going to punch you in the nose. We're going to, we'll handle your crucifixions. We're going to handle all your judgments and everything else. But at the same time, I got my arm around you. I'm kind of holding up next to you a little bit, and that's where the New Rome's gonna kind of be deceiving, very, very deceiving. So a while back, the Lord told me through the Spirit was, you can track Satan's people by iron, and I was kind of amazed because it starts off with Cain killing his brother with iron, plow blade made of iron. And then I started doing a search on iron in the Bible. And iron ruled with an iron fist, harsh rule. I started looking at iron as much as I could. Then there's a thing called pig iron. And of course we know, or if you've read the Bible, that Jesus took a bunch of demons and put them in a group of pigs. So there was a lot of stuff associated with iron as I started looking at all this. And we saw that Cain goes on. He has a family. His lineage is in the Bible. He lives in a city, which we talked a little bit about cities, accumulation of sin city. You have the city in the desert being dust. Okay, And it just kind of things just kind of started adding up. Well, as I started looking at iron in the Bible, he had I believe this is a great grandson. Was the next time iron's mentioned, an instructor in every artificial of brass and iron. So we start to see some things here, and then you have King Og of Bashan remained the remnant of the giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. Now, why on earth would they talk about his bed made of iron in the Bible? You start to get clued in here. You're kind of like, okay, Bashan, obviously Nephilim. All right, the children of Ammon. Okay, you can do that search of Ammon. Those were Nephilim. But why would it give this bed size? Kind of strange. Okay. Lord hath taken you, brought you forth out of the iron furnace. What does iron used for? How does God use the iron? To prepare his people, all right? To teach his people. Iron furnace, Egypt. Egypt is the world. The iron furnace, the world. Iron furnace, the world. Sorry. Anyway. I thought this was interesting. And thou shalt build an altar unto the Lord thy God. This is God speaking. An altar of stones. Thou shalt not lift up any iron tool upon them. That thou build the altar of the Lord thy God of whole stones, and thou shalt offer a burnt offering thereof unto the Lord thy God. What's an iron tool? Another word would be masonry tool. Masons? Something to think about. He says this more than once in the Bible, by the way, several different places. Serve your enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst, in nakedness, and all want of all things. What does that sound like? Sounds a lot like end time. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, it sounds an awful lot like end times here. Thirst, hunger, enemies coming against us. Russia, North Korea, China, okay, all these things. He shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck till he hath destroyed thee. This is another interesting verse right here. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from the far end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Okay, keep that in the back of your mind. The inhabitants of the mountain had chariots of iron, the sons of Anak. Who were the sons of Anak? Anakim, considered strong and tall, mixed race of giant people, descendants of Nephilim. Iron, Nephilim. And there went out a champion against the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, with 6 cubits in a span, shekels of brass, blah, blah, blah. His spear was like a weaver's beam, and his speared head weighed 600 shekels of iron. Goliath, giant Philistine warrior. Most of these iron references come from the seed of Satan or Nephilim. Let's take a lesson from history. Satan had sex with Eve to corrupt us with his seed line, the image of God ruined by sin. This would also prevent, so Satan thought, the Father sending the Messiah to crush the serpent's head. If Satan can manipulate the DNA of the intended creation, then he could prevent the Messiah, who also have his own people to follow and worship him. Of course, we know Satan's plan was halted and dampened because of the Father sent Adam and Eve a new son, Seth, who carried on the lineage. Then we have the Genesis 6 incursion of the fallen angels, mating with women, which Nephilim produced, which were the fallen ones, the giants, the fallen, also according to the book of Enoch, mingled with the animal creation as well. I mention this because it's important to understand Satan's plan. Transhumanism, the mixing of species with not only other animals, but also technology. Iron and clay. Technology. It is the only thing, it is not the only thing, I'm not sure what I meant here. meaning this was done before the flood as well as after the flood. They sinned against animals, the mixing of species. Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language as the beginning to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Talking about Babylon, okay? Revelation or Genesis 11. Babylon is our government, essentially, okay? We're doing this today. See this all the time in the news. Some of these are fake, sure, but not all of them. Nephilim saving the world. Becoming God. Transhumanism. Eyes will be open and you will be as gods, knowing good and evil. Okay, real quick. So, first off, Satan's plan isn't just the mark, okay? That's a big part of it. But he's still manipulating flesh, he's still manipulating DNA any way he possibly can. So, don't just, what I want you to, don't get wrapped around the axle of thinking, well, the mark's his only attack. No, he's got, trust me, he's got clones, all right? He's going to be combining people and machines together, which we'll get into in a little bit when we talk about artificial limbs. Um, you know, if you look in Daniel about the fourth, in Daniel 7, the fourth beast is metal and clay. Not metal and clay about the mark, which we'll get into, but it's like this, metal and clay, okay? It's going to be machine technology intermixed with the flesh. So don't get wrapped up thinking, well, he's talking about technology and people, but how's that? What's the mark going to do? You know what I mean? There's other prongs to his attack. All right, that's just one of them. Satan cannot create. Okay, he can manipulate, but he cannot create. God's creation that's already in existence. Remember, God said nothing will be held from them. Okay, just as Jesus dwells in his believers, the temple. All right, we're the temple. Satan will also use the mark to dwell in his worshipers. They will have no rest day or night. We'll get into that later. Jesus offers everlasting life. In this eternal state, we will bear his fruit. Satan will also offer a false immortality for his followers, but they will produce his fruit. Fear is a dangerous tactic Satan will use for those who refuse or are on the fence about the mark. It's going to be gruesome. It's going to be guillotines. It's going to be death. It's going to be shootings. It's going to be murder. It's going to be horrible. But fear is not of God. You've got to get rid of fear. You've got to call on Jesus to get rid of it. All right. He did this with the giants, hoping that Israel would falter and fail. Just remember, Israel sent how many spies? I think it was, we'll say 24 spies into the promised land, and only 2 of them had the had the faith to come back and say, we can go. God's with us. We got it. Let's go. So, hadn't it been for those 2, I mean, God would have lost a lot of people. So it's just, this isn't a game. It's very serious. Anyway, so he's going to use fear, big time fear. The mark will also be his tactic to destroy the image of God. Satan will use metal prosthesis, and he will fool most people into thinking that the machine part is better than the real you that God created. Like I said, we'll get into that here in a second. It's knowledge and technology, not about realizing we live in a fallen world, that we can never improve. Technology, no matter how good, cannot replace the perfect immortality that God offers. And with that, heaven. New limbs come with microprocessors, electrodes, muscle movement. They sense all this stuff. And this was an article that had a bunch of people with prosthesis, kind of showing them off with pride. With pride. So at what point, okay, prosthetics, let's talk about this for a second. At what point does this become immoral? I mean, what about a cane for an old man, or a pacemaker for someone who has a heart condition, or a prosthetic for someone who lost their arm or leg in war? When you start to change who you are and what you were created to be, and relying on the technology and the world to define you, then you've gone too far. Okay? Then you've gone too far. Everything with prayer and supplication. Always, always, always pray before you do anything. Even if you don't get an answer, you're putting it in God's lap. All right? Even if you don't, well, I prayed, I didn't get an answer. Well, you're putting it in God's hands. So his will be done. Okay? And that's something, it's hard to hear that voice sometimes, but you have to learn to rely on it. You have to, I'll give you a quick example. A lot of times I'll go to places where I think an arrest is justified. But I always put it in the lap of God. I'm like, Lord, going to this house, I'm not sure if there's going to be an arrest or not. I'm putting it in your hands right now. That's it. In Jesus' name, amen. That's it. I mean, you're giving it to God. What happens at that point? When you stand before him, you can tell him, Lord, I gave you that. I put that in your hands. Satan's tactic of mixing intended creations through sex is no longer practical. I suppose still many today would fall for those same tricks. However, Satan has ramped up what he's going to do. Daniel was a man who was actually sick to his stomach at what the messengers showed him, the angels that brought him messages. He was greatly tested and put through many trials to deliver the end time plan of Satan. All right, Satan with all power and lying wonders, okay? He's going to come here and God's going to send them, okay, a strong delusion that they should believe a lie because they might be damned who did not believe in the truth but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Strong delusion, strong lie, very strong lie. If a lie is coming, then you must know Satan is a part of it. How is he a part of it? The Bible tells us that Satan comes from space. And just do what we presume comes from space. There's no such thing as aliens, okay? However, there are fallen angels that have embedded us with a lie over a long period of time for us to presume that there is indeed alien life. But it is all a big deception or strong delusion for us to fall for, all right? For those who have had no love of the truth, is it explained in the Bible? It is. And it goes along with the mark of the beast. Okay? Angels have embedded us with a lie over a long period of time for us to presume that there is indeed alien life. I thought that was funny. That guy's hair cracks me up. Anyway. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of darkness in this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Our fight is not against people, but spiritual influence proposed on people. This verse means a lot to me because I feel it's the most ignored verse in the Bible, first off. Your fight is not with the drug addict, the thief, or the loudmouth. It is the spirit that is controlling that person, just like in the video, Forbidden Fruit. God did not address man. A lot of times he would speak to the spirit behind the man, the king of Tyre, Pharaoh, many others. All right, we do not fight against flesh and blood. It is not against your neighbor or against anybody else. It is against the enemy that's in them. High places, spiritual wickedness, high places, meaning heaven, high, celestial, above the sky, space. We fight against spiritual wickedness in space. I've commanded my sanctified ones, I've called my mighty ones from my anger. He's talking about his followers and he's talking about his angels. Even them that rejoice in my highness, the noise of a multitude in the mountains is like of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts musters the host of the battle. They come from a far country, comma, from the far end of heaven, space. His weapons of indignation come from space. Remember that verse? I'm not going to scroll back up there. We talked about the wrath of his indignation. He uses them to punish, to judge, to set things right. Far country, far end of heaven. Far country. Remember that. There's a chapter in Joshua that paints an all too familiar picture. It is a short chapter, very simple to understand. Once you see the lingo being used, I am going to help you cheat, just for time's sake. All right, picture those that come to build the pyramids, Stonehenge, Mayans, all those different ruins, Easter Island. They set this all up. This has all been a big, big lie that they made up. They came here a long time ago and they built these impressive structures to get us wondering about who made them. Not only who, but how. They have us chasing our tails as to who built these structures. Most of us thinking ancient aliens came here to help us and then they're going to come again. No. Okay. They're aliens and they're not here to help. Okay. Okay, so we have Nephilim, Joshua, kick their butt, Lebanon, Hittite, Amorite, Canaanite, Perizite, anything with ites, definitely probably Nephilim, okay? They gathered themselves together to fight with Joshua and Israel with one accord. And when the inhabitants of Gibeon, remember that name, heard what Joshua had done at Jericho and Ai, some say that means artificial intelligence, maybe, that these people, these Gibeonites, come and listen to what they did. They did work wily and went and made as if they had been ambassadors and took old sacks upon their asses, old wine bottles, old shoes, old garments, and old bread, dry and moldy bread. They're setting up a lie to fool Joshua as if they'd been ambassadors. Ambassadors. Okay? And they went to Joshua into the camp of Gilgal and said unto him and to the men of Israel, we come from a far country. Make a treaty with us. How shall I make a treaty with you? We are your servants, they said to Joshua. Who are you? Where do you come from? From a very far country. And in the name of thy God, we heard of all the fame in him. All the way in Egypt. They're perpetrating a fraud. Far country. Far country. Far end of heaven. Space. We took hot provisions from our house, but now it's dry and moldy. Very long journey. Come from space. So this group is known as the Gibeonites. When you do research of Gibeon, the very first thing that pops up is Nambia Gibeon. And it just so happens to be very famous for a large meteorite. Meteorite. Okay? Used to make tools and weapons. Okay? It's made of iron. Meteorite made of iron. Quick connection from the ark. The ark rested in the 7th month, on the 7th day, in the mountains of Ararat. Ararat, Hebrew spelling of Urartu, a king that existed on the Armenian plateau. This kingdom of Urartu was an Iron Age kingdom. Iron, 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 iron. Iron mixed with clay, mingle themselves with the seed of men. Alien abduction. Sperm was taken. Eggs were harvested. Collection of sperm and egg, sexual intercourse. Impregnated, fetus is removed, sperm and eggs. Once again, medical examinations are the most predominant theme to abductions. These examinations include extraction of semen and eggs. That's the theme of alien abductions. When you look at these, they all have this one thing in common. Either impregnated, taking sperm and eggs, sex, some sort of procedure that goes along with mingling themselves with the seed of men. Once again, eggs removed. Who are they? The movie They, in 2002, includes a scene in which a main character pulls an implant about the size or shape of a toothpick from something resembling a scab she has found on her forehead, just a few centimeters from where her hairline meets. Where does the mark of the beast go? Right hand or forehead. First comes the warning, then comes the mark, then comes the terror. They. They will mingle themselves with the seed of men. At this point, it should be apparent who they are. If you are still in doubt, what has been Satan's plan from the beginning? Destroy the image of God, introduce his seed, manipulate God's perfect creation. Steal, kill, destroy. I am the good shepherd, says Jesus Christ, the good shepherd who gives his life for his sheep. Mingle. To cause or mix together. Skillfully mingled with his knowledge. Okay, I'm sorry. Associating with others. Alien, fallen angel implants. I spelled that wrong. Sorry. The Father in all his mercy will always provide ample warning with what is to come. It is our job to go to him, for it will be revealed in understanding. My story fits this description. I cried out to the Lord because of what I saw happening to our country. I asked God, with all that I am, what was happening. I was met with perfect peace and explanation. I was always the kid who wondered about the unknown more than what the known was. I'm going to introduce you to a guy named Roger Lier here. Let's go here. Roger Lier, he's deceased now, right? A podiatrist in California who died recently, but is known for removing several strange implants from up to 20 patients. Lier, a strong skeptic at first of alien existence, not only removed the foreign implants, but did an extensive study on the implants themselves and also his patients. After being paired with UFO investigator, biblical researcher L.A. Marzulli, which you can Google him, he's got a lot of neat stuff. During these investigations, it is believed Lier not only became a believer in the fallen angel agenda, but as expected, a follower of Jesus Christ. This is his bio. I'm just going to go through it real quick. This was his, I can't think of the word right now. Eulogy. Not eulogy, but you know the word I'm thinking of when you die. Okay, so for the sake of time, all right, we're going to highlight a few things here. This is a patient, Ron Knoll. All right, I was going to put two patients on here, just didn't have the time. But Ron Knoll, some very interesting things about this implant. Okay, he had alien contact along with two friends. Object was made of metallic material or magnetic material, and it was emitting a magnetic field. It was sending radio signals at these frequencies. It was extremely hard, extremely high mechanical strength, impossible to cut even with diamond tools. It was finally cut in half using a high-pulsed laser. All right. Okay. The outer layer of the object was a capsule of tissue resembling epithelial tissue, which clung tightly to the metallic core that was inside of it. Numerous small vesicles, or what appeared to be a yellow liquid, were evident in the tissue layer. Small nerve fibers were seen connecting to the tissue surrounding the object. An initial dissecting microscopic images. The tissue capsule was quite different from the gray electrically conductive membrane surrounding most of the other implants. Okay. Had a shiny black coating. Let's see here. I want to get something real quick. Where is that? Okay. This material appeared to consist of nano and microtubules, some of which were formed into sheets having complex perforated structure. The openings of the perforated structure were approximately the same size of pits in the coating of the object. Iron was the most abundant element in the sample, as observed previously. The most abundant element. Surrounded by an organic capsule of tissue which connected to the subject's nervous system. Make sure you get that. The metallic portion of the object was surrounded by an organic capsule of tissue which was connected to the subject's nervous system. Where does the nervous system go to? The brain. This object was different type. Let's see here. Let's keep going. Okay, here we go. John Smith's subject caused only a small. He's comparing two subjects together here, John Smith and Ron Knoll. Mr. Smith's mood and thought patterns, while the removal of the object from Mr. Knoll caused the onset of extreme moodiness and depression. Also, the different locations of the two objects in the bodies also implies a possible difference of function. Okay, so two different people. But extreme moodiness and depression when it was removed. Had this weird oil in it. Since both coconut oil and lauric acid and have antibacterial properties, it is likely that the oil vessels function to prevent any infection that could disrupt the connection tissue of the nervous system. In other words, when this was in him, it didn't like upset his body at all. It didn't have any, there was no infection, there was no redness, no swelling, no nothing. It was just simply there. And this oil, they believe, is what allowed it to stay. Like the body didn't reject it. I don't know. When I was in the military, I had a friend that got hit by IED, and he was peppered with iron, actually. And this iron, they call it sweating shrapnel. It'll come out of your body. Your body will reject it. However, it wasn't rejecting this. Okay, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Both devices were connected to the subject's nervous system via proprioceptor nerves. Nerve bundles near the RN device were imaged by light microscopy shortly after surgical removal. These are these tubes he's talking about, went down to the core, and these are what I believe the nerve endings were adhered to. Both objects were metallic and composed mainly of iron. In the case of, other manufactured from meteoric iron. Meteoric iron. Carbon nanotubes. I believe that's these things right here, these weird looking things. The CNT bundles were thought to be carbon nanotube electronics responsible for the function of the device. Extremely hard, cannot be cut by steel razor or knife or wire cutters. Had to be taken to a machine shop for cutting. And they gave it the highest hardness on the Rockwell hardness scale. It was the hardest material they had ever seen. Cut with a high pulsed laser eventually. Conclusions: mainly iron. Mechanical strength was unprecedented. Anyway, I'll put in the description box the links for the two studies. You can go through Iron, most prominent feature. This is from a study I did a while ago. I used the same guy, Roger Lier, right here, Dr. Roger Lier. Just kind of scroll through here. Small nerve fibers were seen connecting to the tissue surrounding the object. Membrane is electrically conductive and is thought to be the interface between the device and the nervous system. Some scary crap to put in your body. Control your whole nervous system? I think that's just the beginning. Meteoric iron. Well beyond science. Government's ready. They've got everything ready to go. They're just waiting for this. If a cataclysmic event were to strike the world, many companies, especially insurance companies, would immediately go broke. This event, coupled with terrorism, lawlessness, and chaos, would be an excellent excuse for the government to introduce control and accountability. Obamacare will no longer be an option. It will be the only option. This mark will be the recommendation from our alien visitors who are here to help us regain control and accountability and stability. A mark inside of you that identifies you, controls your health, medical, and financial needs. It will also offer technological advancement to boot, and I believe it will also offer a false immortality. Who can't? Because it says in Revelation, I don't think I put it in the study, but it says they will seek death and not find it. All right, seek death and not find it. Who can't live without their smartphone? We're dependent on the world. I cannot say that enough. We're dependent on the world. And instead, we need to be dependent on God. The government has prepared for this a long time. Most of our presidents have changed all our laws behind our backs, so this system is ready to be ushered in with frightening quickness. It's the RFID chip, okay? It's a class 2. If you go to HR 3962 on page 1502 is where you can find it, okay? And it says here, and I know this got a little weird, cover device shall include class 3 device, and class 2 may include the class 2. The class 2 is the RFID chip, okay? It's a class 2. Class 3 devices are your pacemakers and whatnot. What will the mark do? Okay, that's a big one, okay? Because it's going to do a lot. I would suggest you watch this video right here on my page, Sitting in the Temple of God. That'll give you a lot better answers as to what it's going to do. We are the temple of God. The Spirit of God dwelleth in you. If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. On the King James Version sometimes. Him shall God destroy, for the temple of God is holy, and we, which the temple you are, holy. Okay? God dwells in you. To put this in your body is not going to fly. Okay? You cannot serve two masters. Either you're going to hate one or love the other. The world or him. Or else he will hold on to the one and despise the other. Holy Spirit dwells in us. From that time when the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, the abomination that maketh the desolate set up. There shall be 2,100. The daily sacrifice is living for Christ. Okay? That's going to disappear. It will be a law of death if you worship God, if you worship Jesus Christ. It will be a law of death. It shall be taken away. And that's when the abomination, the mark of the beast, that maketh desolate shall be set up. Okay? The abomination is, it's the half and half, the half seed of Satan and half seed of the woman. It's the Nephilim, all right? The abominations are the Nephilim that maketh the place desolate. It's going to make you desolate. The daily sacrifice, living for Jesus Christ, is going to be taken away. When you see the abomination of desolation, stand in the holy place where it should not be, okay? That's the abomination of desolation, making your temple desolate. They will have no rest day or night. They will worship the beast constantly. The beast is going to be the son of Satan. Okay? Once again, God sent his son. Satan is going to send his. Fall down and worship me, he said to Jesus Christ. I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world if you fall down and worship me. When you understand the symbolism in the Bible, words become crystal clear. Of all things, Satan desires to be worshipped. He is the idle shepherd, lazy shepherd. He's going to take the laziest way for you to gain your worship, which is to force you into worshiping him, thus taking the mark. He's going to put you in a situation, you make a choice. Love the world or love your God. Jesus is the good shepherd who lays down his life for his sheep. Jesus gives us free will to come to him. It has always been about choice. Satan will not rely on free will for you to worship him. This mark will change who you are. It will literally make you an abomination, a hybrid. You saw the notes on the implants and how the chip bonded with nerve endings. It's going to change your makeup. It's going to change your DNA. You will be controlled or driven by a bioengineered piece of iron, all right, made by fallen angels themselves. Eventually you will see no good, all right, as the idle shepherd has his good eye darkened, so will those who take his mark. You will become a Nephilim, a child of Satan with no chance of redemption. It will offer you immortality, but it will be a false immortality, meaning you will be eternal, and so will your separation from God be eternal, and your punishment for disobedience. Every sin you indulge, you will have no satisfaction. You will be completely given over to your desires and lust, with nothing that will quench what you long for. There's a couple chapters in the Bible, okay, that outline the results of taking the mark. I didn't discuss them here because I've already done them on a video, all right, and that's this video here, sitting in the temple of God. If you take the mark, it is complete separation from God. The after effects of taking it will destroy the real you, all right, and replace the real you with a demonic presence that will become a part of your being. I had lost belly hairs in here. You're an individual creation of God, and he knows everything about you. Taking this mark will completely separate you from ever having a relationship with him, the one that made you. Okay, I'm going to go over a couple chapters. I'm just going to highlight very quickly a few things. All right, so this is Job 18, 666, okay? And what they're talking about, it's a dialogue between Job and his friend, and mark, and afterwards we will speak. Taking the mark and what it's going to do to you, we will speak. Counted as a beast. Teareth himself in anger. Earth will be forsaken for you. The rock will be removed out of his place. Shall the rock be removed out of his place? The light that whoever takes the mark, yes, the light of the wicked shall be put out. That's their spirit. That's their light that's driving them to God. All right, the light, when you do something wrong and you know you're doing it wrong, that's the light. Okay, so like if you go commit adultery, you know you're doing something wrong. The light is what's telling you. You will no longer have that. Tabernacle. All right, it's the same thing as the temple. So this is you. The light shall be, or whoever takes it, I'm sorry. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle. His candle shall be put out with him. Okay. The robber is the demon, the entity that's going to come against you, that will be in you. He's the one that's robbing the temple, robbing the tabernacle. That's the demon. Terror shall make him afraid on every side. Drive him to his feet. But that means no rest. I said I'm going through this real quick. I'm not even looking at my notes. I have a bunch of notes on this, but it's all in that video if you want to watch it. His roots shall be dried up beneath, and above his branch will be cut off. These are his nerves. Our roots are in our body, the veins, nerves. arteries shall be dried up beneath. And his branch, Jesus Christ is the branch, will be cut off. His remembrance, he will no longer remember. His name, nothing. From light to darkness, chased out of the world. Are the dwellings of the wicked. Remember, you serve two masters, you can only serve one. Surely such are the dwellings of the wicked. Okay, so this is another one. This is Ezekiel 8. Okay. Just going to scroll through this real quick. Okay. He gets a visit by an angel. Son of man, see what they do? Even the great abominations in the house of Israel committeth here. He's in the temple. I shall go far off from my sanctuary, but turn thee again, and then you shall see greater abominations. He brought me to the door of the court, and behold, I looked in the hole in the wall. Right here. Go in and behold the wicked abominations they do here. So I went in and behold every form of creeping things, abominable beasts, and all the idols in the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall around about. I gotta go in. You gotta look at the word study here, but this is another one. Worshipping towards the sun. Worship the sun towards the east. That's the beast. But it's all about these abominations that are committed in the temple. All right. And it goes on in chapter 9 as well. Anyway, watch that other video. It's a 2 series. It's I think worth a watch. But I had to do something that shows you exactly what it is, what it's going to be. All right. And how it got to that point. All right. It's not just a simple RFID chip that's going to let you buy or sell. Okay. It's not that simple. All right, guys. God bless you. Getting close to getting out of here. So just stay vigilant and continue to persevere. I love you all. God bless you all. And take care. Bye-bye.